AITA for disrespecting a family recipe and calling someone entitled for policing my food. TLDR, my family hosted a dinner with some family friends and one got really upset at my meal of choice. I felt I was justified at the time, but since my family hates conflict, I am wondering if I maybe I 24F moved out of home for school at 18 and have been living abroad on my own ever since, cooking my own food. I don't believe I am a picky eater, but I do avoid certain foods, most meat, mayo, vinegar. If I am invited somewhere and I don't like the food or some of the ingredients, I will smile and eat anyways, but I avoid those foods if I can choose. My mother knows about it, so when she cooks, she usually will set aside a small portion for me before adding mayo or vinegar. One of the side dishes of yesterday's meal was a potato salad typical of my region. Basically potato puree with small pieces of veggies and seafood mixed in mayo. Mayo is a key element of the recipe, which is why I never order that dish. But my mother usually sets aside a portion before adding the mayo. Usually, she will set aside a big portion so that other people feel welcome to eat the alternative, no mayo version if they want. Dinners here are always potluck style, but this time she forgot. And I arrived at the kitchen on time to set aside a small part that had no mayo yet, not more than 3 or 4 spoons. So when we served dinner, I just took the plate for myself. We have eaten with everyone invited yesterday countless times and I can't remember any time any of them ate the no mayo version. I ate the same main as everyone else. One of the family friends noticed my plate was different. She asked me if I didn't think the potato salad was great. I agreed. Then why did my plate look different, and why hadn't I been served from the same dish as the others? I told her mine had no mayo. Did I have any intolerance? No ma'am, I just don't like mayo. But potato salad without mayo is just potato puree. Maybe. Ma'am, I enjoy potato puree. At this time she started insisting I try the real recipe and see how good it is. I told her I grew up with it, I knew it was good and I was happy everyone enjoyed it, I just preferred my version. I admit I was a bit short, I didn't see my meal choice warranted so much attention. My family hates conflict and was trying to steer the conversation somewhere else. But this person went on a rant about how young people are entitled and unappreciative of their traditions. I looked her dead in the eye and said I did not think I was the entitled one here since I had not gone to her own home to tell her how to eat her own food. Complete silence. She was visibly annoyed but let my mother change the topic. I believe I was on my right to tell her she was out of line, but my poor grandpa looked dismayed at the tension, and it probably would have been easier if I had taken a small portion with mayo and politely agreed. So AITA for parroting the things my wife says to me back at her. So it's my 11-year anniversary tonight. Not sure it has any bearing on this story, but I think it's important to bring up. We had a party at our place with some friends and neighbors and toward the end of the party I was visibly intoxicated but decided to have another beer because that's just what I do on a Friday night. Upon seeing me retrieve this beer my wife says, "Ugh, another one. Fucking really?" Sounding all bent out of shape. This doesn't really bother me because I've been married to this superfly lady for 11 years now. About 4 minutes later I see her getting a Rice Krispie treat so I jokingly say, "Yuck, another one?" Completely free of profanities or anything, trying to show I'm just messing around because that's just my person. I'm now in the doghouse and she's pissed because I was making fun of her weight and that getting a dessert is different than sobriety, and I tried to explain that it was not making fun of anyone's weight, just parroting someone getting one of something, but it has fallen upon deaf ears and I have been asshole branded in our house. It should be noted that I am not struggling with sobriety or any other such issues. I just hear and see things that make me laugh and I want to keep it going. AITA for parroting my wife? AITA for saying that if I have to wear a bra at home so does my dad and brother? For starters, I F23 have the smallest chest in the family. My brother M26 and father M57 both are a bit on the heavier side, but I have never used that against them before and it's never been a big issue. Last week my parents and brother came over for a surprise visit and I happened to forego wearing a bra since it was just me at home loafing in my room and reading stuff. They wanted to stay a while and chat hefty in the apartment, so I didn't really see a reason to put on a bra still. Fast forward a while, and I notice my mom is giving me a look. I wasn't wearing anything particularly see-through or thin. It was just a regular graphic tee of my favorite hot sauce and some shorts. My mom told me to go change since it was inappropriate for me to be wearing so little with men in the house. I told her politely at first that I didn't think it was anything weird and I used to wear these exact clothes at our house all the time not that long ago, and she never said anything. But then she started going off on a tangent about how I wasn't little anymore and I couldn't get away with having them just swinging around. We argued a bit about it because I really can't be bothered to put on a bra during the weekend when I have no plans on going anywhere, but she kept insisting that I was being a terrible host and exposing myself. My dad and brother were also on her side, brother more reluctantly, and just told me to do what she wants and it wasn't a big deal. I don't know why, But I just felt so done and stressed at this point that I snapped, if I have to wear a bra in my own house because of my chest, then so do dad and bro. I could tell right away that my comment made my dad feel hurt, and I did feel immensely guilty afterward. But I still don't think I should have had to put on a bra for a surprise visit when they were going to leave soon anyways. My brother tells me that I took it too far and I should have just either ignored her or changed for that little while they were visiting. My mom also still refuses to talk to me until I apologize for my inappropriate comment. AITA. Edit. After reading through a lot of the comments, and boy are there a lot more than I thought there'd be. I'd just like to clarify a few things. 1. When I said my brother and dad were backing up my mom, my dad was very vocally backing her up and enforcing this need to wear a bra behavior. He and my mom are just afraid that if I am not wearing a bra when they're around, I probably won't for other guests, and that makes me immodest. My brother just sided with them because he already gets on my mom's nerves enough for other reasons, so he didn't want to draw any fire. 2. My mom is the type of person who even wears bras to sleep, so to her, wearing one really isn't a big deal, and she often says that not wearing one will lead to a saggy chest in the future. Her comment wasn't really meant to be a jab at the men's ability to keep it in their pants, it's really just her own thoughts on the matter. That said, thank you for some of the comments also calling me out. I will definitely apologize to my brother and maybe my dad since it was unnecessary to my mom's level. Edit. 2. I am not sure if I wasn't clear in the post, but I live alone in an apartment away from my parents and brother. It was a recent change though. AITA for not eating my GF's vanilla almond milk mac and cheese. Last night she made Kraft mac and cheese but used sweetened vanilla almond milk instead of regular milk and sprinkled not fresh bacon crumbles on top. I didn't say a word but took a bite or two, and sneakily disposed of it after she ate hers without being rude. She didn't even notice that I didn't eat it. She found it in the trash and she's calling me picky right now and saying it's frustrating that I didn't eat it. That's absolutely disgusting, right? AITA for threatening to file a restraining order against my parents. My 22M parents are nut jobs. I have 2 siblings, Diana 19F and Luke 8M. My parents are 50M and 45F. My parents heavily favored my brother and I over our sister. Luke and I were showered in pocket money, gifts etc. while Diana was expected to get a job as soon as it was legal for her to do so. They claimed they wanted to raise her to be strong and independent, but both of them have said they wished they had 3 sons because girls join their husband's family and leave their parents behind, so having them isn't worthwhile. My mother's pregnancy with Diana was also very difficult, and the damage that is caused meant that she had many miscarriages while trying to have Luke, all of which were blamed on Diana. Yes, I did stand up for Diana as much as I could until I moved out for college at 17. I tried to get other family members involved, but my parents are amazing at pretending they're not evil. As soon as Diana turned 18 in July 2021, she moved out. Like on the evening of her 18th birthday, I was receiving calls from my parents asking me if I knew where she was because she had disappeared. She had moved in with her friend Savannah's family, and a few months later she started dating Savannah's older brother Michael in November 2021, 25M, and she moved in with him in February 2022. Savannah's family adore my sister and they were happy that she was dating their son, and I know nothing was going on before Diana was 18 because Michael lived abroad until September 2021. My parents disowned Diana in August 2021 when it became clear she wasn't moving back in with them, and they haven't asked me about her either. Now they're constantly harassing me to get them back into contact with her because they found out that she gave birth to her daughter at the beginning of this month. I didn't speak to them much after Diana moved out because they make me sick, but I still wanted to keep in touch with Luke. But the harassment has gotten relentless. They are demanding that I get Diana to speak to them because they have a right to know their granddaughter. They've showed up to my job and home, which scared me as I live with my boyfriend, and my family don't know that I'm into men. I don't know if they're homophobic, but their behavior scares me nonetheless. That prompted me to look into restraining orders, and I think it'll be possible to get one against them. Yesterday, they showed up to my home again and I answered the door, and told them very plainly that they weren't owed access to Diana's child and that I was going to get a restraining order against them if they didn't stop harassing me. My grandmother called me that evening to tell me how heartless I was being because I was denying them access to 2-3 of their children, myself and Diana. She said that threatening to sever family relationships wasn't the way, and I was being a horrible person for not allowing them the option to reconcile with Diana. My grandmother is a very sensible person, so now I'm started to feel like I've gone too far. AITA for calling my Bill a joke of a father in front of his wife and kids. My sister Rachel was married to Daniel 40 meters for 8 years. They were high school sweethearts and they tied the knot shortly after their graduation. They had a daughter together, Alice 16F, who was Rachel's entire world. Rachel ended up being diagnosed with cancer when she was a few weeks away from delivery, and after Alice was born, she started chemo ASAP. It ended up being treatment-resistant and aggressive, and Rachel ended up passing by the time Alice was emotionally checked out completely. He decided to take a job opportunity abroad, and he left Alice in mine and my wife's custody. At first he said it was temporary, that he just needed to get things in order before Alice came to live with him, but eventually it was obvious that it would be much longer. He signed his rights over to us, and we've been raising her alongside our 3 sons. As far as the boys are concerned, Alice is their big sister, and as far as Alice is concerned, they're her little brothers. Daniel got remarried, and he had 2 daughters. Alice wasn't invited to the wedding, we only found out about it after his brother mentioned it to us. Daniel does send money for her, and they write letters back and forth like he and Rachel used to do in school. I know that there has to be some part of him that loves his daughter, but it's hard to believe it considering how he practically abandoned her after Rachel died. Daniel's brother Wes has helped out a bit with Alice too. She'll go over to his house at least once a month to see him, his wife, and their kids. A few days ago, I was taking Alice over, and when we got there, we saw that Daniel, his wife and kids were there. I was ready to get back in the car and take Alice home, but Daniel saw us and came outside. He came up to Alice and tried to hug her, but she stepped back from him. He looked hurt, and when he asked why she didn't want to give her dad a hug, I snapped. I asked how he could seriously stand there and refer to himself as her dad when all he's ever been to her is a pen pal. I called him a joke of a father and a sorry excuse for a man. His wife and their daughters overheard what I said. When Alice and I got back home, Wes called me and left a message saying that he agrees that Daniel hasn't been the best father to Alice, but I didn't need to tell him that in front of his wife, their kids. Daniel feels the same way. I did apologize to Alice for disparaging her father, but she just shrugged and said it would have only been disparaging if it wasn't true. My wife said she probably would have done worse if she'd been there, but part of me does feel that I could have said it out of earshot of his children.